Within 12 hours, the entire community of Paradise, California, was completely wiped out. So we just hit the 6-year mark. I have a lot to say about the long-term impacts. It was absolutely devastating. 93% of students in that school district lost their homes or could not return to their homes. We went from having about 1,500 homeless students to over 5,000 students who would be McKinney-Vento eligible as experiencing homelessness overnight. I'm Meagan Meloy with the Butte County Office of Education in Northern California, about 90 miles north of Sacramento. I am the homeless liaison at our County Office of Ed. So we just hit the 6-year mark. I have a lot to say about the long-term impacts. We didn't even realize as a community how long the recovery would take. It's hard to even describe how fast the devastation was. So it really took out the whole town. And I cannot overstate how important it is to be sure that staff are supported. A lot of school staff also lost their homes, and then they had to come back to work and working with students who lost their homes. Social emotional learning, trauma-informed systems and responses and practices became so important and continue to be really important. We already had one of the highest ACEs scores, adverse childhood experiences, in our state before the campfire. So that was 2018. And then 2 years later, which felt like a blur in time, pandemic hit. It just felt like that complex trauma. It was just compounding. Mental health, mental wellness, and trauma responsive practices became a priority in our schools in the wake of experiencing that horrible fire. Working with foster youth and with students experiencing homelessness, we were always trying to bring those ideas and those practices to our schools. But after the fire, it became evident that it was a top priority. It really quickly transformed our schools into being more trauma-informed, trauma-responsive, and also thinking about the wellness of staff too. Something that I did not think about at first was the ripple effect in housing. Families who had insurance coming into our other communities in the county and buying homes, pushing renters out. There was sort of this second wave that I hadn't really thought about until it started happening. So we had students who had not been directly impacted by losing their home in the fire, but lost their home because the housing stock was so stressed, and we already have insufficient housing and really lack affordable housing. So it was this layer of ripples that families who were renting then pushed out and didn't have anywhere to go. 6 years later, we still have families who are not permanently housed in the wake of the disaster. There's the immediate physical safety of where you're going to live and you can't go home. But then there is the trauma in going through that traumatic experience. And we know that stability in routines can help to mitigate that. Getting students to school can just bring them that feeling of I'm stable, I'm safe, I know what's going to happen, I know my schedule for the day, I know my routine, my friends are here, my trusted adults are here. So I think being that school connector can really help to bring just overall stability for our students. After the fire, so many people had to share housing with others. It really changed how they thought about that experience of sharing housing and doubling up, and how really impactful it is overall. It changed from being, this is something that people over there experience that would never happen to me, to this could happen to anyone at any time. There's a reason that is a category of McKinney eligibility. And we know that as homeless liaison, our understanding of the different types of housing situations is critical after a disaster like this. But there are other kinds of disasters that happen in people's life that lead to the experience of homelessness. mental illness, physical illness, poverty, loss of employment, illness and death of a family member. All of these are types of disasters. The impact of helping a student succeed in school is going to reduce the risk of homelessness later in life, too. It's prevention, and it just makes so much sense to me that we should be putting our energies and our efforts into getting students through to high school graduation and beyond.